Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Forgotten Feminists. Thank you so much for joining us for this special episode where we have the lovely Rabyaah joining us. Rabyaah, how do people usually pronounce your name?
So it's Rabyaah for the number 4 in Arabic. Yeah, I was the fourth girl. Yes. But Baba says he named me after 𝗫𝗀𝗡𝗚, not because I was the fourth girl, but I know for sure Mama named me that name because she wanted a boy after me because she's had only girls. That's another story in itself.
Rabyaah. So literally the fourth.
But in English, it's Rabyaah. I don't care. My name's been butchered all my life, so.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. And we look forward to hearing all about everything that you're going to share with us. Let's start off with, you grew up, well, you didn't really grow up in Yemen. You were born in Yemen and lived there for a little bit of your childhood before coming to the States at 6 years old. So I wanted to ask you about that time growing up in Yemen. Do you remember much about it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I do. So when we joined my dad in 1985, I was, I think, 6 at that time, 5, almost 6. So I do have memories of being like a little girl in Yemen. So we're from the middle regions in Yemen, 𝗪𝗏𝗃 𝗪𝗪, and but I was born in the city of Taiz. The city of Taiz is the sort of the hub of Yemen where the educated elite live. It's like one of those, unfortunately right now it's under siege by the Houthis. But I'll come to that later. So I was born in Taiz 2 years before we joined my dad in the US, because my dad immigrated to the US in 1981. Before that, he was in Qatar, like most Arabs, in the Gulf. And so in 1980, 2 years before we joined him in 1985, we went down and stayed with my grandmother for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And that's where I got most of my scars. My scar right here, I don't know.
When you say you went down where?
So we left the city and we went to spend, time with my grandma in the village before we joined my dad in New York City. So my mom was like, well, if I'm going to leave my mother for the next God knows how long, I want to spend some time with my mother. So we went and we lived in the village. And that was actually the most beautiful memories that I have of my childhood, was not of being in the city in Taiz. Mm-hmm.
But I want to know okay, so I interrupted you when you were about to tell me about scars that you got in the village.
Oh, okay, yes. So yes, Yemen is very mountainous, right? Geographically, and the region that I'm from, the middle region, is beautiful and green, but all these mountains. And so I was a city girl, and when we joined my grandmother for that 1.5 years, I went wild on those mountains. I broke a lot of bones. They're like badges of honor, but there was also sort of like a conflict at the time. So what I remember about those 2 years is how beautiful everything was, whether it was the nature in front of me or whether it was the relationship between man and woman. They danced together. They wore beautiful colors. The women, my God, my mother in Taiz in the city wore mini skirts. In the village, she didn't wear a hijab. My mom had her beautiful makeup on every day, the Yemeni makeup. She had on the most beautiful jewelry, these colors. It's just, my childhood is full of like that part of my childhood. It's full of colors and beauty and song, and they'd go out in the middle of the night and dance in the middle of the village. They had these rituals. It was the most beautiful, I think, before the Islamic awakening, beautiful time of my life was right before we joined my dad in New York City in 1985. And then I know there's other questions, so I'll get into what happened, what destroyed all of that. Yeah. So yeah, I for me, my memories of Yemen at that time, I mean, I visited Yemen afterwards, of course, and I'll talk about that later, but it was the Yemen that I kind of envision now coming back and should come back. Yeah,
that you're reminding me a little bit of what it was like for me when we would visit Egypt when I was younger. Like in Canada, I was under such a, we're going to Islamic schools, everything was so conservative, everything was so fundamentalist. And I go to Egypt and people are like, my cousins are teaching me how to belly dance. It's like,
so by the way, yeah, they were progressing and fighting Islamic extremism post the Islamic awakening that actually began with the Khomeini revolution in Iran, then we were in the West. In the West, my God, and I'm gonna get into that, but that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah.
And then we watched the Islamic awakening, you know, the Islamic deadening happen across
the bloody Islamic awakening.
Yeah. So you did mention a little bit about the Houthis. I did want to talk to you about sort of ongoing attacks that are going on in Yemen right now that we've been seeing, you know, atrocious stories, heartbreaking pictures of kids, and it's Saudi Arabia that's leading this coalition, and Iran is involved, and
there's a lot of misunderstanding, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, this is why I want you to help us understand.
Yeah, so in the West, there's really no nuance to any of these conflicts, right? Especially within liberal bubbles, democratic bubbles. I'm a leftist. I was a Bernie surrogate. I'm part of that world, right? So there's little to no or zero nuance whatsoever when it comes to these conflicts, and especially the conflict in Yemen. Yeah, always, of course. So in Yemen, yes. So, and this is a good way for me to like move from, you know, these beautiful memories that I had of myself in Yemen to what happened to Yemen and why are we in the position that we are today, okay? What happened was that the Khomeini revolution of 79 began in Iran.
Yeah.
And shortly after, I would say within a year or two, within about 2 years, the Gulf countries, so this whole 1400 years old conflict, all of a sudden flares up. And so these super rich Gulf countries decided to go on like a competition against
they're threatened
Shiism in the world, right? So what happens is that they, with their filthy money, and I'm not going to curse, I hope I'm not gonna, I promise you
no, you're feel free.
I say the F word when I'm like worked up, but whatever. So with this money, they funded madrasas all over, not just the Middle East, but all over the Islamic world. They funded groups that were mubashirin, what we call like to go spread the word of Islam. They created so much more damage than what Khomeini revolution did in Iran, which was very much isolated because the world or the West in general had an issue, or America per se had an issue with the mullahs of Iran. Now they didn't have an issue with the Islamic awakening in Saudi Arabia. Why? Because, you know, there's American interests at play here, right? So within a couple of years, you see the beginning of this creeping, bloody, dark force taking over the region, the Arab and Muslim world. Yemen was a direct neighbor to Saudi Arabia, and we have a lot in common with the Saudis. I mean, as people, population, we do. You know,
what's the Shia Sunni split in Yemen?
So that's another thing.
Population wise,
I mean, we understand Shiism and Sunnism in general, right? When it comes to 𝗚12 which is the way they practice it in Iran, right? And when it comes to, so I'm Zaidi and Ziud, so sort of like the Houthis are my family members, right? Houthis are Yemenis, okay. But what happened was Houthis are a little bit more aligned towards Shiism, and that they don't they don't recognize these followers of Rasul, Sahaba. They don't recognize the Hadith, which is good in many ways, to be honest with you. They're a little bit more liberal when it comes to that. So but we're still very distinct from Shias in Iran. We're very much Arabs. We are very much Yemenis. It's a different kind of like sect within Islam. Of course, I'm against all of these groups, right? And I'm going to get into that. But yeah, so that's the split in Yemen. It's like Shafi'i, Zaidi, whatever. It's not really the Sunni Shia, and we've coexisted literally for thousands of years, or 1400 years, even post Islam, with each other, whether it was Yuds or Shia, or Shafi'i or whatever. So there was coexistence up until.
Hold on, one quick question. So who is the majority? Are Sunnis the majority?
In the Arab world, yes.
No, in Yemen. In
Yemen, no. The Sunnis, yes. No. In Yemen, the Sunnis are the majority.
Okay.
And as Yud, we are the minority.
Okay.
However, because we became politicized and because Iran in the last 10 years, and I'm going to start ranting. Please keep me focused if I do. So it's politics. Oh God. So what happened in the region, and I'm gonna try to keep it like concise. The Islamic awakening happened. There's a competition between Shia and Sunnis. The Gulf states are mostly Sunnis. They're funding all of these, religious groups. Then there's this war, right? This holy war, right? I'm sorry, I can't even see. Are you still with me, Yasmin?
I am.
There you go. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it should be. I was just trying to mute somebody's dog that was barking. Sorry.
Yeah, I heard that. Okay, we all have pets. So then this competition begins. Yemen is directly impacted. Then you had Islamists. The Islamic awakening literally turned doctors and engineers and PhDs and philosophers and poets into freaking Sahawiyin, what we say in Arabic, like they are into like the most regressive minds you could imagine. So, I mean, we all lived through this experience. I didn't live in the Middle East, you didn't either, but I lived in New York City, and in New York City, we were directly impacted. I think even so much more. My God, I could just remember some of the khutbahs or some of the what we were taught in the middle of New York City, growing up leading up into 9/11 and even post 9/11, where we were taught that at the end of our days, or whenever the world ends and we are before Allah, that the Jews will have to hide behind trees, and the trees will start talking, and they'll point at the Jew behind it and say, here's a Jew, come kill it. Like, this is literally what I was taught growing up. I was taught hate. I was taught to excuse and support suicide bombers, that it was okay to kill innocent people on a boat or on a field trip. I was taught the most. Can you imagine? I grew up, when I think about this, God, I can't wait to write this book. When I think about what I used to believe growing up from as long as I could remember, up until when I liberated myself at 31, I just can't believe that I used to think that way. And it was literally what everyone around me was taught. Every Muslim and Arab child grew up this way. We all grew up ticking bombs. We all grew up potential terrorists. That is a fact. What happened in Yemen, and in the Arab and Muslim world at large, yes, Yemen, there's a conflict, but don't forget there's Syria. Don't forget there's, there's all these conflicts happening in the Middle East. What happened was that these religious conservative Dawa'ish, ISIS, I always say, I refer to them, they're all Dawa'ish. I don't differentiate between an Islamist that whitewashes ISIS. I don't differentiate. You're all effing Dawa'ish. That's what you are. You are all ISIS members. If you are coming here to tell me, but wait, let's not rush to judgment here. The Taliban, have been reformed by the Qataris because they're like cute Islamists, because Qatar is like kind of cute, they represent to the West. They have Al Jazeera spewing all their fucking hate. No, don't tell me that shit. No, I don't know. That's not, you are all Dawash. Anyone that tries to justify what the Taliban is doing today to Afghani girls is a fucking ISIS member in my eyes. Right. And this is coming from someone on the left. I have a high profile within the American left. I was a Bernie surrogate, and I was muzzled literally forever. And I remember telling you this, Yasmin, first when we had that, I said, Yasmin, I used to follow you, and I used to follow, oh my God, that beautiful Iranian woman. What's her name?
Masih Alinejad.
Aywa. I used to follow you guys, and I agreed completely with what you all said, but I was terrified. Why? Because I was still part of a cult, and I call it a cult. I was part of the sort of like very extremist part of the left. I'm a proud leftist. I am a class reductionist in many ways. I'm a proud Marxist. But very much when it comes to economics, I hate identity politics, right? But can you imagine? I was part of that world, literally and figuratively, for so long, and I was terrified. And I used to watch you. I used to watch her, and I would be like, my God, when, it was just so scary, the thought of me even liking some of your posts. And I live here in the US. I lived in the land of the brave, home of the free, or home of the free, land of the brave. I lived here in one of the most beautiful countries, and I love this country. But I was very much, I feel like a victim of the Islamic awakening, and also the victim of the Western American liberalism, that in the name of inclusivity, we will not talk about problematic areas, wherein 99% of Muslim women are forced to wear their hijab, are treated as second-class citizens, but yet don't talk about that. Because we got to have international solidarity day with hijabis, with less than 0.2. It's not even a percentage within the Muslim world of women that actually have the right, even in the West, to wear that choose to wear the hijab.
Correct.
And I'm all for it. My sister's hijabi, and I love her and I support her. My mother wears a hijab. I will never. My best friend Wadad wears the hijab. I love Wadad. I'll never question that. But that is not the majority of Muslim women. That is not what is happening to Muslim women, not just in the Arab Muslim world, but also, oh my God, also in the United States.
All over the West.
All over the West. When it comes to inheritance law, they don't adhere to Western laws. A woman is still half a man. So at this point, when my dad, may Allah protect him and he lives forever, I will inherit half of what my brother will inherit, according to Islamic law. And this is followed here in the West as well. We are half humans. We are not complete humans. All right, I'm going to stop ranting. Let's go to the second question.
No, these are wonderful rants, and I love everything that you've said. And I've already in my mind clipped a couple of those audios to share, because I love everything you're saying. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about your experience growing up in New York as an Arab American woman. So you mentioned the Friday sermons, the khutbahs, hearing all of the anti-Semitism. I totally agree with your statement of saying we were all raised to be ticking time bombs. 100% agree with that. And you could see that as soon as ISIS came to fruition in Iraq and Syria, you could see all of these kids from all over Germany, the UK, Sweden, Canada.
Descending
exactly,
on.
Exactly. And people are like, oh, they were groomed. What? They were groomed in like that? Are you kidding me? Nobody goes from being a perfectly normal human being to saying, I want to join a terrorist
it's how we
group.
Grew up. Exactly.
It's how we grew up.
Yep.
We all had that. We were all primed for that. And so as soon as the doors opened, a bunch of these kids went running thinking, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. But you know, I want to know about growing up as an Arab American woman in New York, knowing all of the way that you're being raised in the home or in the mosque, and then having that dichotomy of living in New York with feminism, equality, leftism, all of these ideas.
Can you imagine the complete conflicts?
Yes, that's exactly what I want to ask you about.
It's a lifelong struggle. It's been a lifelong struggle for me. On one hand, I am, going to 𝗪𝗀𝗡 Mosque on Atlantic Avenue and being taught all this crazy shit. And on the other hand, I am in American schools. I went to public schools all my life. And then I went to City College, which is a publicly funded, that's for my undergrad. And then I did my grad at Columbia, but I was in the hub of New York City. This is the hub of intellectualism, of liberalism, of leftism, of liberty that we all worship and love. So I grew up on one hand, oh my God, this girl that is in a wonderful city that teaches us all these beautiful ideals about equity and equality and 𝗪مساواة. In the Arab world, that's all we talk about right now, التسامح, or coexistence, living with all kinds of. And I was taught on every Friday when I went to Friday prayers, or oh my God, when we opened the Arabic television screen and all that crap. So it was literally a huge struggle for me. And the forces of darkness within the Islamic awakening kind of co-opted my life for the first 30 years of my life. So up until I was 31,
okay.
I
So
started
you were
wearing the
pulled
hijab.
into it.
So we didn't wear the hijab. When we joined my dad, the Islamic awakening in Yemen, and my beautiful memories of Yemen still had not taken like hold. It was like 85. It was like 4 or 5 years. So I still had not seen the damage, right? Of course, I did see it visiting Yemen 15, 20 years after, right? Oh, about 15 years after. So, you know, in New York City, like I didn't wear the hijab up until I was 15. My dad, and this is why I give 𝗏𝗧𝗡 credit where credit is due, even though he was influenced, and he gave me hell when I decided to liberate myself from an arranged marriage. But I'm going to get to that. When we first got here, my dad did not care about us wearing the hijab, did not want us to wear the hijab. My mother, on the other hand, my poor mama. And that's a sad thing about Muslim women. They're like the biggest victims. Why? Because they're the least educated, because they're systematically discriminated against in the Arab Muslim world. They're not educated. They're not allowed to think for themselves. So my mom was like very strict. She's like, you know, she wanted us to wear the hijab. My dad didn't care about it until I after there was this like dark, like I would call it now darkness. Back in the day, I was like, ooh, what's happening? Everybody's wearing the hijab. You know, you're like a 14-year-old child. That's been brainwashed.
Spread like a virus.
It was like a virus. Literally, none of us. Look, I've organized with people like Linda Sarsour, who I believe right now, and I'm going to say it out, I don't care. She's a tool for Islamists, and she allowed herself to be a tool. And there's a lot that I disagree with her. Oh my God. I love her and respect her as someone that I grew up with, but seriously, I've been so disappointed by her. But so can you imagine, we all grew up in this environment. She chose to be the mouthpiece for this ugly world that was destroying lives of millions of Muslim women, while I, after a certain point, and beginning during the Arab Spring, that's when I began to liberate myself. Like the first month of that, I had already, of course, gradually in my 20s tried, and I fought, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why am I half of a human being? What? I was questioning all the time, but it was still so very difficult for me to like, oh, I'm going to take my hijab now. I was married at the time. I was in a semi-arranged marriage. My dad never forced me, but I married a man that was kind of like, I didn't even know. He was a good man. I'm not going to say he brought me my beautiful 2 kids, but it wasn't something that I had chosen.
It wasn't your choice. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. No. Oh my God, for sure. And so when I decided to go on this journey of like self-discovery, and I was reading 𝗲𝘀𝗎𝗎, I don't know if women know who this author is, and I read The Awakening. That is one of the most, that book was, I think, one of the most influential in the way that I began to like, I need to free myself. I need to get out of this, because I was in a very unhappy marriage. He was not abusive or anything, but I felt like, first of all, I did not choose to be in this marriage. And he was more conservative than I was in that respect, although he was not a crazy dashi or anything like that, but still. So I was reading, and I was like always questioning all these things. And then I finally liberate myself. And I was already a community leader at that time. At 31, I was leading all these protests in front of the UN with Nobel Prize winner 𝗫𝗀𝗡 Karman, who is now a mouthpiece for the Ikhwan and Islamists. And the prize is like a waste on her, on 𝗫𝗀𝗡. And 𝗫𝗀𝗡 is Yemeni, and I love her, but no. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that. But so I was like, you know, I'm here rooting for all these changes in the Arab world. And by the way, the Arab Spring did start as an ad hoc youth movement that I was very much against corruption, against government, but then was co-opted shortly after by Islamists. Yeah. And so that was, for me, I think one of my biggest regrets is actually being involved in the Arab Spring, although it started off right.
It started off, yeah. A lot of people got fooled, and like you saw that happen in Egypt, clearly.
Oh right? Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. All of us. We were like, oh, you know, at the beginning it was like, yes, finally Arabs are standing up. There's not this fear. And then anything Islamists get their hands on, al-Ikhwan, they destroy it. Exactly. Yeah. So anyways, I liberate myself, and then I was like, wait a minute, the Arab world is going through this, you know, why am I still afraid to even, I would wear hats when I would, so this is how I started doing it. When I would organize, in most of my organizing life was in the middle of all these conservative men. I was their number one advocate, and they're my number one followers on Facebook. I have thousands of 𝗲𝗍 following me. I love you, 𝗲𝗍, if you're listening to this. And I tell them that all the time. They're not 𝗲𝗍, but like they're conservative men in New York City. But I tell them this all the time. I'm saying this for your own good. I don't know how I found myself in this position. It's only because I put up with a lot of their shit. I put up with so many campaigns waged against me because I decided to liberate myself from the hijab, which is the easiest to see.
It is.
But liberate myself from like really being a second-class citizen living in New York City. So yeah, I mean, the Arab Spring and growing up in New York City and all that, it's like it's been a journey. But I feel like we're finally getting there. There is like a counter-revolution to the Sahwa, to the Islamic awakening that's happening in the Arab and Muslim world. And we'll talk more about that. But yeah, that is giving me so much hope with what's happening in that part of the world.
So we had one question, somebody asking, what's 𝗲𝗍? It means ISIS. She's saying like ISIS people.
Yeah, 𝗲𝗍.
Fundamentalists.
Yeah. Like it literally means, so at the height of the Islamic awakening, after 30 years of being hostages, we end up with Daesh. What more does the Arab Muslim world need to know or figure out about this bloody ideology after Daesh? There's nothing else. We've reached it. Khalas. And this is why atheism is on a rise in the Arab Muslim world. This is why political Islam has destroyed lands. The wars in Yemen, the conflict in Yemen is waged by Houthis that are aligned with Iran and Salafis, all these religious groups. And what's happening in the Arab and Muslim world is that they are demanding the separation of church and state. We are going through our own enlightenment era in the Arab Muslim. It may not look that way for us that are far removed, but because I'm so involved in what's happening, we are literally seeing a revolution happen in the Arab Muslim world. And I'm so for it right now. I'm definitely so for it.
No, absolutely. We had Wafat on too, who was talking about the similar topic. She's from Tunisia, but she was talking about how the awakening is happening there as well. And like you said, all over the Middle East. So how did your family, friends, community, here you are, fully immersed in the left, Bernie surrogate, and then you come out and you start speaking
They've
like
been hearing it way before Bernie.
Okay.
So in 2011, I began my journey of liberating myself from political Islam and from the conservative look. I still say I'm Muslim, of course. I mean, although I'm really agnostic, but I love the holidays. I love Eid and Ramadan. I love the fun stuff, like we all do. So I'm like a cultural Muslim, right?
Yeah.
But literally, my family and friends have been hearing me talk about this, and I paid a high price for this. While Linda Sarsour was being funded and supported by all these Islamist groups, I was shut out from everything. Even though I was a lot more educated than she was. My God, I don't even compare myself to her. I mean, with all due respect.
But like you said, she's the mouthpiece. She's saying what they want her to say, so they will uplift her.
Exactly, because she toed the line and did what, and I feel like it was, what I hate about it so much is to see other Muslim women do that. I could even be a little bit more tolerant of a stupid white, redneck in the Midwest spewing shit.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
Or even someone on the left who has no nuance, has no idea what's happening in the region, but in the name of, they have good intentions in the name of inclusivity. We got to protect the minorities, and these Muslim women hijabis are being attacked. I can understand them and excuse them because they're ignorant. But for someone, whether it's Linda or not, for a Muslim woman that has lived that reality, and I know Linda has lived it, and I know Linda's history. For her to be the mouthpiece for that kind of world, for me, I just can't. So I paid a high price. I was shut out. I was excluded. I was muzzled. And I still made it to be the Bernie surrogate. Why? Because I know my own strengths and I'm honest, and I don't, but so you could understand, like with my family and friends and everyone that I grew up with, like it, oh my God, when I was working on my master's degree, trying to liberate myself from this, arranged marriage, and trying to become a human, full, complete human again. I was also, by the same people that I was advocating for and supporting was also being attacked. So I've only recently, I would say in the last 2 to 3, 4 years where it's become obvious that I know who I am, my community, even the very conservative love and respect me. And I've shown them, look, I'm with you, and now they're beginning to see. So I have, and I'm going to end it with a very positive message at the end. But yeah, it's been a struggle, Yasmin. Wallah, it's been hard.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about how people on the, sometimes on the right, you can find people that are just full on racist or bigots. They just, they'll hate you just whether you regardless, they'll hate me, whether I identify as a Muslim or not, it doesn't matter. Your name is Yasmin Muhammad, once a Muslim, always a Muslim, I get told quite a few times. And you're just a sleeper cell waiting to jump out and be another extremist, blah, 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 whatever. So you get that kind of ignorance on one side. And on the other side, you have the very patronizing ignorance that bothers me so much more. You know what I mean? The straight up ignorance of just hate is something that I can let roll off my back. But when it's the ignorance coming forward and trying to like save me and protect me,
we know what's best for you. We know what's best
for you. Oh man, that patronizing, condescending, you know what I'm talking about exactly.
I do.
And it's like this refusal to see us as human beings and as individuals, that we must be groups and we must be victims, and they must protect us. Like that's how they see themselves, as the saviors in this circumstance. So how can we get people on the left who purport to care about women's rights, LGBT rights, all of the things that you and I agree upon? How do we get them to understand that when they support Islamists, when they support people like Linda Sarsour, when they do not speak out against the Islamists, that they are supporting conservative Muslims? They have a problem with conservative Christians, and they're not realizing.
Of course they do. Muslims, that's their number one enemy.
Exactly, but conservative Muslims are like a million times worse.
Yeah, but those are allies. Yeah. So I'm so glad you brought that up. So I am a leftist, have been a leftist literally forever, have been in this world literally forever. And there are, within the left, there are those that patronize, that are not nuanced, that are like, and so there's a lot of ignorance. That's just it. And what's happened in the last 10 to 15 years, Islamists have literally really kind of infiltrated all these spaces. They're there, right? And I'm not going to question my leftist comrades' intentions. They're probably good, and they are, in many instances they are, until I start talking. I'm like, listen, this is what's happening. And there's really a lot of ignorance about the region, the religion, and what's happening, right? And as you said, these are women and men that would go out in the street with their titties hanging out. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, they say free the nipple.
Women.
Yeah. But what about free the face, free the hair?
No. We can't talk about that. That's Islamophobia. No. Oh my God. What kind of feminist is all for freeing the nipple, like you've tweeted many times, I've seen you, and yet wants us to respect the Taliban or respect Islamists in forcing women to become, we're like ghosts. We don't exist, to literally erase us min al-wujud, from existence.
Our brothers. That's what the Minister of Gender and Women's Equality called the Taliban. Our brothers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Liberal. Yeah.
It really eats up at me, and I struggled with it forever. And I was bitching about it literally in bars and corners in my political world. Everyone knows I've been talking about this forever, but I was still too afraid and scared. And yeah, that has a lot to do with cancel culture, maybe, and because those forces, like Linda was very powerful. This, not just Linda. I'm talking about Islamists in general. That the liberals and the left enabled and supported them for years. I think there's a little bit stepping back now. Maybe there is. I notice it, but literally, it was this crazy. I think so. I don't identify as a liberal, so I'm always very critical of liberals because they're like this. I feel like within the left, there's a lot more nuance, even though there's still not much nuance. No, on certain issues. I'm talking about serious leftists that understand things, but like generally liberals they are the powerful ones with the money, and they support and they enable and they fund in the name of justice or whatever, all these justice initiatives and equality initiatives without really thinking about what they're supporting, looking into it. What are we, like, you mother effers?
No,
like you have no idea how this impacts our lives, not just in the Arab Muslim world where it's very clear to anyone that can see, but also us here in the West, living here in the cities. You know what I mean? Oh, please say fuck yes.
It needs to be said now.
Let me close the shade. Chandler, I say it all the time when I'm upset. I'm trying to be nice and good. But yeah, I mean, that's for sure. Yasmin, wallah al-azim, it is so much more frustrating, and it angers me a million times more than it does when a racist that I already know what their point of view is, and I know that I won't be able to get to them, even though I feel like we can get to anyone. Like the way that I approach, whether it's me talking to the left on the Middle East and on women, or whether I'm talking to a right-winger, and I know a lot of right-wingers, that people don't discount anyone, talk to everyone, be diplomatic about it. But still, like, I would expect so much more from my leftist comrades and from liberals and Democrats in general, especially given what's happening now with conservatives now banning abortion from fertilization, mind you. You know, like, so we are having our own fight. I'm fighting so many wars, Yasmin. I'm fighting these mother effer conservatives in the United States that are taking us back to the 1950s. And I'm fighting
it's the same fight, but
it's the same fight.
Fighting for women.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So what was I going to ask you? You said so many things and some stuff that
I'm sorry. I know.
You.
I go on rants. Rants. Yes.
Like, no, you just, there was a lot of different things that I wanted to talk about. And then I just got, my brain got pulled in too many different directions. I'm getting old.
I'm ADD. No, you're not old. Trust me. I'm old.
But so do you feel that the answer then is to just keep on talking and just one by one convince liberal thinkers, left-wing Marxists, everybody that thinks that they support all of these freedoms, just keep on talking to get them to understand that they're actually supporting conservative totalitarian beliefs? Yeah.
That is literally what I've been doing for most of my adult life. I can remember, and so maybe this is where I would talk about how that's changed in the Middle East and what's happening. Yes, keep on talking, keep on tweeting, keep on posting, keep on. This is my life every day.
Are they listening? Can they hear us?
I can tell you, if Arabs in the Middle East are listening now and changing, it can change in America.
Yeah,
and there
Arabs
is
for sure.
For sure. Oh my God. I was just tweeting the other day. I was like, the Arab and Muslim world are like really going through this amazing phase, and we're regressing here in the West.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. Although there is signs of hope against the woke crowd, and I was very much part of that cult, from regular leftists, from liberals, there is a pushback. There's definitely a pushback. Why is there a pushback? I'll tell you, because I'm very much in politics. The polls are showing that Democrats are losing ground, and they're losing ground with the majority of Americans. There's a lot of pushback against this fringe side of the left that was supported and enabled by very powerful liberals and the liberal media. Now, just look at what's happening with Netflix. Netflix is now canceling everyone. Like, they've gone broke. Like Elon Musk say, although Elon has his own issues, but you know what I mean? So there's as much as there is a a counter revolution to what's happening in the Arab and Muslim world, to the Islamic awakening. I feel like we're in the US, there is already beginning. And so the way that I actually came out a part of this pushback against my own cult, I know, don't get upset, everyone, that I'm calling you a cult. I was a cultist too. Everyone knows me on the left. I love you guys. Mwah. But literally, that there is now sort of a pushback to just purity politics and the way that we approach these issues with no nuance, right? Unfortunately, Twitter is not real life. I think 10% of the world is on Twitter, which is nothing. Like, and when it comes to, influencing the masses, it's definitely on Facebook, and I'm very active on Facebook. I think I have like over 35,000 followers, and half of them are Islamists. And the other half are like journalists and writers and everyone else. But so yes, we need to continue to talk. We need to continue to post photos of ourselves living our best lives. I troll Islamists all the time. I post a lot of photos. If you've noticed, I post me out at dinner I would never have dared doing that just like 3-4 years ago. Post a glass of wine on social media. This is how much of how muzzled we were. And how I felt like or this Iraqi beautiful doctor in London who just posted her photos in a bikini. It's like, yes, first Arab woman. So it's, and for me, it's not like, and no, it's because we are really fighting the fight of our lives. Post of yourself living your life, show other Arabs and Muslims that it's okay. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them now, in secret, without post, they're all living their best lives. So they're just terrified because Islamists continue to be more organized and a lot stronger than us on social media. But I feel like there is, and I can tell you this from someone that's been on social media for so long and talking about these issues, that it is also changing on social media.
Good. Love it. Happy to hear that. I've been seeing that obviously with the Free from Hijab, no hijab day that I've been doing. Like you
that's amazing. That was so amazing.
It increasing. Yeah. So it is wonderful to see. I totally agree with you. Okay. So I'm going to open it up to the group now and see if anybody has any questions or comments for you. So if you have any questions or comments for Rabyaah, I've been calling you Rabyaah in my head for so long.
Because the way it's spelled in English.
The way it's spelled,
it looks like it's Rabyaah. I know, it's Rabyaah.
Rabyaah. Then just pop up your little reaction emoji or something like that, and or raise your hand, get my attention.
I said so much. I don't know if they'll have any questions.
Yes. Go ahead, Chandler, unmute yourself. Okay, I'll unmute you. Hold on. No, you're still muted.
Unmute.
Hi,
Hi, I have a master's degree. I can't figure out how to use fucking Zoom.
I'm the same way, trust me. I
can't do it. Can I make a comment that I think we'll find interesting? I mean, this is the way that I see it, and then actually, Rob, I want to challenge you on something that you said, which I think is completely irrational.
Go ahead. I love the challenge. Yeah.
Okay. The thing, I think the analogy is that, and Yasmin, I think that you and I have talked about this actually. The right analogy is liberal AIDS. Liberals have AIDS. I'm left. I'm Democrat. I'm atheist. I'm Medicare for everybody, pro-abortion rights, etc. But I think that you and I would see it exactly the same, Rabyaah. Rabyaah. Now I'm doing that, yeah. I think that the correct way is that our side has AIDS. We apply freedom of thought and feminism and LGBTQ liberation and all these other good things to everything except for people of color, non-whites, right? Because racism is paramount, the ideology of racism is paramount.
Yeah.
You can never attack anybody who's non-white. And if that happens, then all of your all of your beliefs in freedom of thought, etc., and all of your liberal principles go out the window and can't be applied to people who are brown. And they associate, and this is complete racism, of course, but they associate Islam with a race, which is racist, because they're racist. So that's what it is. It's an inability of the liberal immune system to recognize as an invader, as poison, as toxin, anything from a brown person.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So I'm blessed to be brown on Twitter because I can say whatever I want and no one, you know, my leftist comrades, oh, okay, maybe because I've been part of their world for so long, they don't. But they did.
Am I not brown enough? I have to tell.
No.
Yes.
And they don't care. No, he's right. Chandler doesn't, it's anyone that's like right. From not, yeah. So no, that's for sure. That is definitely the problem. The biggest problem within liberalism and leftist circles is this fear. I feel like they're all holding their breath. Like I have so many friends that agree with me and understand where I come from, but they're terrified of saying anything publicly about this issue.
You're a racist.
Oh yeah, for sure. They that is
not you. Sorry, a white person.
No, not me. I know. That's what I'm saying. Because there is, I can understand why they're afraid. There is this culture where you're instantly shut down, muzzled or canceled if you say the remotely fact. If you even talk about facts, you're canceled. You're
canceled.
Oh yeah.
But even you guys are not immune from it. I will never forget when Yaz brought this up about Beth from Ohio lecturing her on Islam, lecturing her on fucking Islam. This fucking white bitch from Ohio. Fuck you, Beth from Ohio. It is.
Yasmin. Yeah, Yasmin, that is our reality. Our reality is that they treat us like children. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a master's from Columbia, you piece of shit. I know, I'm an expert on the Middle East. I've published, you mother effer. Don't fucking come and lecture me on this shit.
It doesn't
I have something to teach you.
It doesn't matter. If you have a religion, then the religion of racism in this case is paramount. And unfortunately, we are really affected by, and that's liberal AIDS. We cannot see anything negative in people who are not white.
And that's not helping us. Okay, so they care about us, right? And I tell this, I talk about this all the time.
They don't care about you. They don't care about you, Rabyaah. They do not care about you.
Okay, let's just, for argument's sake, this is their intention, right? And I know I have a lot of friends that they are well-intentioned. A lot of them really don't understand. But once I've started talking,
the road to hell.
Yep.
but now I feel, but because they feel that they're here to protect us, it just feels so many times it feels like they treat us like infants, like I cannot think for myself, and that is so disrespectful to me, and it pisses me off when someone with a big account on Twitter writes out this tweet about Yemen. The children, I'm like, you mother effer, you have no fucking idea what's happening in Yemen. Iran has wreaked havoc on the region. And no one on the left or Democrats they're terrified to talk about Iran. Why? Why is it when Iran, as much as the Sunnis and the Arab Muslim world, are the reason for all of, of the destruction of Syria, the destruction of Yemen. Don't come and preach to me. Don't. It pisses me off. I get it, Chandler. I've experienced it. I've lived it. I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lot of conversations going on in the chat here. Lois, did you want to turn on your microphone and share that comment with Rabyaah?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Yeah, I have always kind of thought that people that have never been deeply involved with a fundamentalist religion have no concept of how fundamentalists can think. Like I said, like Western liberals cannot comprehend that Muslims really believe in the doctrine. And they just so they have to find another way to think about it.
Yeah.
And think, oh, it's all, it's culture, it's whatever. And for example, I heard Richard Dawkins talking with, I can't think of the guy's name, the news guy that's Muslim. And Dawkins.
Oh, yes. Mahdi is a big 𝗔𝗕𝗙𝗊𝗔. Oh my God.
He is.
He is horrible.
So Dawkins says, well, I'll give you the assumption that you don't really believe in flying horses. And Mehdi says, oh, but I do, really. And Dawkins' face was just utter disbelief. And again, leftists that haven't been involved in religion don't believe that anybody really believes it. And I think that affects their attitude, the way they perceive it. Oh, they don't really think that, it's not that bad. They don't.
You know what it is? I think it's hard for them to believe that almost 1 billion people in the world are under this cult, under this spell, right? So I've been watching a lot of cult documentaries I think I've spent 2 weeks last month just cult documentary after, and now I think I'm an expert on cults. And that's because also my life.
Yeah.
My life.
You see yourself. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yes, we were part of a cult.
Absolutely.
Islam is a cult. Mm-hmm. From the way we dress, the way we eat, the way we get up, we sit down, whatever. Not to say that there aren't moderate Muslims. Of course they are. Mm-hmm. The majority of Muslims are. They're about their lives. They're living their best lives. They're not extremists. However, the way that it impacts us as women in particular, like men are fine. It is very destructive. And it is literally, especially the first, I would say 10 to 15, 20 years of the Islamic awakening. And that's 2 decades of our lives. It was a cult. It was a dark force that took over the entire Arab and Muslim world. And I talk to Saudis and Emiratis every day on Twitter because I host their spaces. So I talk to all these activists and writers and journalists and all this. And I'm like, it's your fucking fault. You funded, exported, and whatever, Wahhabism all over the Arab Muslim world. And this is, you sow what is it? You reap what you sow or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the saying. It is now so yes, at least let's say the UAE has been way before Saudi Arabia pushing back and trying to fix the damage. Qatar, on the other hand, man, that damn country, they're gonna have to reform whether they like it or not. But the whole region is moving towards pushing back against and Saudi Arabia. You guys, it is now MBS. I am completely with what MBS is doing in the region. I was completely against his intervention in the war in Yemen. I thought that it could have been handled differently. I'm very much in politics and I'm like an expert on these regional conflicts. But what he's doing and has been doing for the past 4 to 5 years now has been revolutionary. And people in the West don't understand why, as someone that's been very critical of MBS, if you can Google my name in MBS, is now very much on board, very much on board, because for the first time ever, I have hope that there is going to be real change coming to the region. Why? Because the hub of the Islamic and Muslim world, which is Saudi Arabia, is now opening up to liberalism and all of that. So
moving in the right direction. They're very far from the finish line.
But it's still, oh my God, Yasmin, when you think about he's taken leap years given the fact that it took 30, 40 years for Islamists to destroy the entire region.
Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about that and how there's this awakening of Muslims in the Arab world, awakening of women, feminism, all of these things. I think that's obviously it's a wonderful thing to see. It makes me really happy. But what I hear a lot in the West is this. We are scared to speak up against Islam because of the violence. We don't want to be another Charlie Hebdo. We don't want to be another Salman Rushdie. We don't want to be insert X number of names here. And so people don't want to say anything, even South Park, like even creating a cartoon can put people's lives in danger. And so nobody wants to criticize. But at the same time, those same people will say to me, why are the majority of Muslims silent? Why don't
they don't understand where they live? They live in totalitarian dictatorships for the most part.
You're in the United States of America and you're afraid to speak up.
Exactly.
How would you
we're
feel if you were in
here.
Afghanistan or in Egypt or in Pakistan or in Sudan?
You know what?
Yasmin,
I swear to God, Muslims are even more braver than liberals and leftists in the U.S.
Absolutely. Of course they are. These women that post their pictures free from hijab in Saudi Arabia and on all over the Muslim world.
From inside these countries. Exactly. So on Twitter, I'm very active in this new feature, Spaces, right? And I host a space almost every day, and I get thousands of Arabs not living in the West. In fact, the ones that join us living in the West are the more extreme, but get to that. Yeah. So we get Arabs and Muslims living in the heart of these very these countries that have laws that will put you in jail if you talk against against Islam. Just even saying that, being a little bit critical, or put in jail for anything that is considered to be anti-religion, right? Islam. And they are in my spaces, and I host Mortal Enemies 2 in Battle, and they are talking with, especially the ones that are in this fight, like Yasmin said, critical and are out there, and they're defying all these norms, whereas in the West, my leftist friends are in jail. I feel sorry for them. I had dinner with a couple of I love them. They're very great writers and they contribute in really good ways. And I was like, I'm trying to liberate you guys. You have no idea. Why don't you guys use the space feature more than, I'm shocked of how, I think the most it's used is in the Arab and Muslim world, the space feature. And it has thousands of people. And then the ones that talk are living in the region and they say all these things. It's mind boggling what's happening to us here in the West when it comes to freedom of speech. I come from a school of thought where speech is speech, speech is speech. I don't give a fuck. As long as you're not instigating violence against a certain group, as long as you're not crossing those lines, let this motherfucker racist say what he wants to say. Whatever, who cares?
I want to hear it. I want to know who's saying that.
You know what the funny thing is about this race thing? Is that a lot of Arabs are also anti-Black and racist.
Yes, they are.
But they're considered brown. So it's like you can't really police people's thoughts. You can only help try to get them out of that dark, enlighten them, right? But to muzzle them it's for me, as someone that was muzzled all my fucking life, even being a leftist in New York City, I'm against any kind of censorship, completely against it. And any real democracy would not be muzzling or canceling or censoring people. They have no idea how good they have it. They have no idea.
Yeah. And I think that's the cycle, right? That's the thing. They don't know how good they have it. So they're too spoiled. They're too soft. They don't have
this. Sure. Especially the left elite on Twitter, my friends. And I consider myself a left elite. I lived in New York City all my life. I come from, kind of a well-off background. I consider myself that. I'm not trying to put them down, but they're in a liberal bubble. They're in this bubble. They live in these ivory towers, but they want to influence the masses. If you are an influencer, you've got a responsibility, or I will come after your ass, especially if you're talking about Islam and Muslim women.
I'm glad to see that the Ministry of Truth that Biden was trying to instigate there fell flat. That was nice to see. By the way,
even from within the lab, there was a lot of pushback. That's crazy.
That's wonderful. It's still going strong in Canada. Apparently, there are polls. I don't know who they were polling, but apparently there were polls that were sent out.
And information. My God. Has anyone read 1984? That's crazy.
Right. The majority of Canadians support this this campaign to stop disinformation online. And the reason why you feel so strongly against it, and the reason why I feel so strongly against it, is because we were muzzled. And we know
and still am in many ways.
And still are in many ways. So we understand, I'm the one who would be killed if I speak my mind in some countries. Do you know what I mean? Who's to judge? Who's to decide what's right and what's wrong and what's disinformation?
It's
and
a
what's
stupid idea.
Absolutely stupid idea. But you get it. I get it. People who have been born and raised in freedom, in a wealth of freedom, they don't get it. They don't understand it. And
Yeah.
it's
I think they might need their rights to be
around.
taken before they get it.
That's the sad thing.
I'm not
That's
advocating for that, but you know what I mean? I think they
Yeah.
need to experience what we experience maybe to get it.
Yeah.
But even
Yeah.
so, like, why? You know,
Yeah.
UAP is so good.
Yeah. Yeah. They are complacent, as 𝗬𝘀𝗺𝗧 is saying here. We have some comments from Tina and some comments from Paula, and I'm not able to read them all. Do either of you guys want to turn on your microphone and ask 𝗬𝘀𝗧 the questions, or did you prefer for me to read it? Paula, are you okay to read it? Want me to read it? Okay. Okay, I don't know. Let me scroll back up. There's so many comments on here. It was a good one too. Oh, here it is. I'm quite afraid of a second Arab Spring due to hunger. Ukraine is closed and we, Italy, are without some things now. In Canada as well, our shelves are barren.
Yeah.
Imagine in a few months, Egypt, Tunisia, Libya without food, like Yemen. So why would that bring a second Arab Spring, though? I'm trying to connect those dots.
I don't believe. I think Islamists in the Arab and Muslim world are on a decline. They are political Islam is now being fought left and right by many people, even moderate Muslims. You know, it's not just liberals
because
or
Saudi
secularists.
Arabia. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. But also after 2 decades of wars and conflict, and 3 decades, really the Arab and Muslim world, they're just done. They're done with political Islam. I don't believe there is also right now people that were very much a part of the Arab Spring that have come out, like 𝗬𝘀𝗎𝗡. He was one of the leaders in the Arab Spring in the Arab world. I was kind of one of the leaders, but supporting them here from New York City. I founded the Yemeni American Coalition for Change. I supported activists in Egypt, Bahrain. This is at the beginning, before Islamists came through. But I really don't believe there will be a second Arab Spring, only because Arabs already know what they lost and what was replaced. Like in Yemen, yes, Ali Abdullah Saleh was corrupt, but it was so much better than what we have today. Yani, it was not after the Islamic awakening, and Islamists took, I call it the Islamic awakening, after the Arab Spring, which is literally the Islamists at the helm, and then culminating the Arab Spring, you got ISIS. This is where they were the most powerful. And by the way, they were powerful not just in the Arab world, but also in American institutions and Western institutions. And they infiltrated our circles, and the Obama administration was very much a part of this disaster that literally completely destroyed the region. And I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Yes, the Obama administration is very much a part of that problem. It's a fact. So I think the Arab and Muslim world are completely going in the opposite direction. There's no fear of another Arab Spring there might be, yes, a lot of unrest, of course, as we were saying, we have a shortage for baby formula. There's a lot of issues happening now economically worldwide due to the conflict in Ukraine, directly following 3 years under COVID. So there is a lot of issues with the chain supply, with the fact that we're not getting any more wheat from Ukraine. Yes, there is a problem, and more developed countries will have to assist those that are less developed, or yes, there's going to be a lot of unrest. That's for sure.
Okay, we've got just a couple of questions here I'm going to read out to you, and I just noticed the time. It just flew by.
Yeah,
it's already been an hour, so I'm going to try and wrap it up, but I'm going to read a couple of the comments here. Ingrid is saying, you would have been jailed and you could have had your house burnt down if you lived in Indonesia. Yasmin, really, no joke. Indonesia, which is
that's
what
sure.
Reza Aslan was calling one of the moderate
countries. Yeah, and it's supposed to be the moderate, yeah.
Yeah. And then Tina is saying, Obama was a horror show. I will spend the rest of my life atoning for my votes for him. I loved Obama in the moment.
Me too.
Honestly,
Me
I was
too.
such a fangirl. but yeah, I
we
mean,
all
looking back
were,
at what happened in
but
Syria.
given his history, yeah, I mean, he not only enabled and supported Islamists, but he also was behind the drone war, secret drone wars that literally destroyed and killed thousands of Yemenis. So I'm no fan of fucking Obama. So
yeah. And
not
he's the one who helped.
not to take away from some of the achievements that with the, the ACA, which is health insurance, which was, I mean, not completely what liberals or, I mean, leftists wanted, but there were things that he did accomplish.
Topic.
Yeah, on domestic,
topic,
on that topic,
he was being advised by the
on the Iran deal a little bit. There are things that I would say, okay, but literally, seriously, when it comes to the region, and I just couldn't understand it back then, why Arabs hated him. Why do Arabs hate Democrats and Muslims? Why do Muslims and Arabs hate Democrats so much? Finally, I began to realize, oh shit, now I get it, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was being advised by the Brotherhood. He was being advised by Islamists. So,
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
We saw that definitely in Egypt with him trying to bring Morsi in.
Yeah, that lasted a minute.
That didn't last. I was so proud of Egyptians in those days. I was like, finally.
Yasmin, I was advocating or like not supporting the Morsi, but in a way, because I'm a human rights advocate. It's like, well, the way that they were, I came out, and this is what was crazy. Everyone knew that I was like trying to be independent, try to be fair to everyone. And yet, because I was not their hijabi, pure Muslim, they attacked me. And I'm like supporting them. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's like having brown skin will protect you from being attacked by the left. Putting on a hijab will protect you from being attacked by your fellow Muslims.
Because you're towing the line. You are one of their tools. You're a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I know we talked about so many things today. Okay, Chandler's got one more thing to say, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. Go ahead, Chandler. Is that okay?
Yeah, I have like this I have this space on Twitter. It's almost every day they join me, but I have to, like, when we're done, I have to go there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Speed talk, Chandler. Yes, got to figure out his mute button. Hold on. Hold on, I'll say.
It's okay, Chandler. I understand your struggle. I get it. Oh, I love you too. He just posted. Oh, he's so sweet.
No.
Oh, okay.
Hang on. It's not a love letter. I love you, but I do think you have liberal aids. Would you mind reading that? Because that might be the most.
You think Rabyaah has liberal aids?
He thinks okay, let me read that. And it's okay. Maybe I do.
Okay, let's read it. Let's read it to the whole class.
Yeah, I'm going to read it. And please
Rabyaah, you read it out loud.
I am going to read it out loud. And please remember this through this strong, quote unquote, challenge to one of your positions you described. I'm going to challenge you on your total support of women who choose to wear hijab. Okay. I'm going to answer that. Choosing self-oppression, choosing the theology of anti-free, anti-woman, gay, etc. Choosing oppression. As far as I can tell, you two suffer from the AIDS thing that you're talking about, an immune deficiency to Islam, just like the people. I love it. Aunt Lydia and the psycho Christians in the home, Handmaid's Tale. I love this. I'm gonna copy this comment.
He doesn't hold back.
Chose the Republic of Gilead. I love this. Chose exactly the set of thoughts you claim to oppose in Islam. Explain why this is not complete hypocrisy. Why to use a science analogy. You believe in science and law, physics applied to people who choose hijab. Okay. All right. So here. Oh my God. I get that a lot from Arab secularists, right? A lot of them are like, well, Rabyaah, you're involved in politics. You've got to toe the line. You can't be too offensive. No, that's not true at all. The way that I approach this, Chandler, is that I'm out here to win the hearts and minds of even those women that are oppressed in their hijabs. I tell my sister every day, you don't need this shit, take it off. That's my point of view, but I respect and love her regardless of how I view the hijab. I respect anyone with a sound mind that chooses to, not become part of a cult, but if they want to be spiritual and they feel that the hijab is something they want to do, I'm okay with that. that's fine for me. And I feel like because we cannot discount the fact that there are millions upon millions of people in the West, I'm not talking about the Arab Muslim world, that are religious, that are spiritual in some way or another. There are those that believe in, maybe even within Christianity, I have friends that are like liberal Christians, but like go to church from time to time, celebrate certain holidays. I just feel for what we want to accomplish, right? And I'm very pragmatic when it comes to this, is that yes, we need to be honest and clear and strong in the way we talk about the problems we have within the Arab Muslim world, whether it's in that world or whether it's in the West. But at the same time, if we want to be successful, we also have to be smart about how we talk about these issues, okay? These people have been brainwashed for 30, 40 years. You can't tell them, that hijab is oppressing you overnight. You have to do it slowly and in the easiest way that you can. So even on Facebook, I post photos of my kids, of my mom with her, but my mom is a hijabi. I post photos of me with my mom without my hijab. So there are ways that you could reach these people, right? In a way that you could actually win them. So that's where I differ with you. I'm agnostic. Okay, I am not an atheist at this point. I'm like a coward. I really want to believe that there is something afterlife because I want to haunt my kids. All right, you know what I mean? Like it's my ego talking. So, and at the same time, if you believe in something that I know is completely like I think it's like just myths or whatever, then that's your right to believe it. It's fine. I'm not going to sit here and waste time. Where I care. What should matter to all of us is how this impacts society at large, how it impacts women at large, and how we can change these societies to move away from, these ideas that are so regressive and so anti-women to more of a middle ground. And the Arab and Muslim world has a long way to go compared to what's happening in the West. So that's my response to the usual secularists from the West that, there are also within Islam, within Muslim secularists that are like almost fascist. They're like, kill all Muslims, kill all Hijabis. That is too different. Do you get it, Chandler?
Of course.
Yeah, you have to not you don't want to lose people. In the war for the hearts and minds of people, you have to learn how to talk about it. That doesn't mean that I am, I'm justifying or I'm trying to make it seem. No, there's a lot. At this point, I'm anti-organized religion completely. But if you're spiritual and you want to do something that is not hurting anyone else, including your own family, including your own kids, I'm going to support. I'm going to be like, okay, that's, you know what I mean? Of course, I'm against anyone that forces their girls, anyone that forces their children to wear a hijab before the age of 18 and they can make their own choices. I'm against that. I talk about it all the time.
But that's contradict. I think that the way, first of all, I agree with everything you said, and I agree that what you're talking is you're mixing tactics with belief. Tactics, I agree with you on tactics. You have to go moderately. It's going to be much more helpful. Dawkins goes 1,000% atheist, and it's really not helpful for a lot of people. And I agree with you on tactics. When you express yourself the way that you did in the beginning, I think that I think it's mislead. I heard something different. I did not hear it as a tactical. What you just said was clear. I'm glad you're bringing that up, so I can clarify it when I do that one. I'm glad you're giving me this feedback because everyone that knows me knows I'm liberal. I'm not liberal in that sense, but like I'm a secularist. I'm very much but yes, I should be more clear when it's not me trying. No, because in the beginning, you really seemed to say. I was listening to it. I was thinking, well, it seems like she's saying two things. It seems like she's saying. And put it in terms of race because that's the way that liberals see it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
For white people, no, I'm a Christian. I like a Mark Meadows, Greg Abbott type of Christian. That's disgusting. No, and any degree of that is wrong. And you seemed like you were saying, well, hijab is wrong, oppression of women is wrong, hatred of it, all this sort of stuff. Oh, but if people choose to wear hijab and buy into that, that's fine. So it seemed like you had two different beliefs, but now you're saying, no. I'm actually talking about the way of reaching people, which is tactics, not what you actually believe.
I agree with you completely. And so part of this war that's happening in the Middle East and all these, spaces, and if you all can follow me on Twitter, you'll see it, is that there is this talk about changing a lot of these texts within, within Islam, people are literally, every facet of their life is like, it's like a cult. It's literally a cult. So there is, even within secularists that talk like me, that are like, oh, we have to toe the line, that sometimes, no, we got to like talk honestly about it. This is bullshit. This needs to be, this, you know, so we're talking about text, holy text that they believe is holy text. So I promise you, and maybe it doesn't come off that way because we talk mostly in Arabic when we are doing this on Twitter or whatever, but I promise you, these are real discussions. Within, Ali al-Bakhaiti was in Saudi Arabia when he was talking about how an Emir bin Salman needs to get rid of all these problematic, quote unquote, holy texts. You know, this is a big deal for the Arab Muslim world. This is sacrilegious. You don't talk about the holy texts. I promise you, these discussions are happening. We are not making any excuses for, you know, sort of like cute Islam or, you know, modern Islam. I don't believe in modern Christianity, modern Islam, none of that. I don't at all. But again, we are trying to win the hearts and minds of people. We're trying to like get them out from something that is too extreme at this point into a little bit being a moderate, you know, moderate Islam. Again, the Arab Muslim world is very, very different from the world you're used to here in the West and what I'm used to here in the West. Even though maybe my world in the West is a lot more Islamic than your Christian world.
Well, I'm not Christian, I'm Jewish, but I'm completely atheist, but also I work in the Middle East. So
you have an idea.
I work in the Gulf.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah. And all my Arab friends are ex-Muslim. All of them, they're all atheists.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. By the way, that's a trend in the Arab Muslim world. Everyone has become an atheist.
And they're all in the closet.
They're on the closet up until, if Saudi Arabia, so there was a law that was just passed, and I'm gonna have to leave soon. So if Saudi Arabia continues to do what they're doing right now, and then there is now talk about literally a New Testament. You guys have a New Testament, whatever. Literally a new Quran. Yes, getting rid of getting rid of the problematic nusus. So there is definitely that happening in the Arab Muslim world, and I believe that it's going to impact the entire region, just like they impacted us during the Islamic awakening and destroyed our lives. They are now obligated to fix that.
Inshallah. All right. So before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that you had a chance to say everything that you wanted to say, Rabyaah, that I'm not cutting you off.
I've said too much.
Okay,
I told you I rant when I'm in the mood.
I feel like we should have a part 2 with you, because this discussion that we're having about the hijab, like I want to jump in there and like give my 2 cents, but we ran out of time. So I'll just have to keep quiet, but you know, I can always rant on Twitter later.
Yeah, I just want, before I go though, I do want to thank you so much, Yasmin, for everything that you do. You were out there before any of us dare to say anything. And I want to apologize to you that I was not brave enough to stand by you earlier enough, and I'm tearing up, but seriously, you know, at least you were not part of a world that literally muzzled you, your own friends, or, you know, but I really do love and respect you, and respect all these Arab Muslim women that are putting themselves out there. And we've been through so much. And hopefully this is like, for the first time ever in decades, I feel, or since I've started really getting into this, the last 5 years, I'd say, for the first time ever, whether it's in the Middle East or here in New York City or the West, I feel like there's hope. People are listening. There's traction. It's changing. I believe that it's going to change because I've been part of this struggle for so long. I see it changing. It may not look sometimes, it may be so overwhelming for us on a daily basis, but it is changing. We need to continue to talk about it. We need to continue to post and talk and talk and talk until the day I die. I will be talking about this. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for being here tonight with us, or today.
Beautiful.
I didn't mean to.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rabyaah, for sharing so much and for teaching us so much. And thank you all for joining us. And there's like a whole bunch of people are posting here for wanting a part 2. So I'll have to chat with you about that.
Of course, I would love to.
All right,
thank
everyone.
you. Yasmin, send me this when it's done. Thank you, guys.
I will. Absolutely. Bye everyone.
Bye.